Every character should be the hero of their own story. But that bit of evergreen writing advice is easier to preach than to actually, write. After all, an audience is here for the protagonist, the main cast, the present tense story that they're already invested in. It can be hard to then rip all of that away and give them something completely different. A new character, a new conflict, a new story entirely. Part of making a fictional world feel real is that it keeps turning when the main characters aren't in the spotlight, that things are still in motion outside of the scope and perspective of the main cast. There's plenty of stories that do this kind of global scale writing exceptionally well. Game of Thrones, One Piece, Metal Gear Solid, Berserk, where events happen because they feel like a natural culmination for dozens of moving parts, not just as a list of plot points for the main character to linearly experience. And sometimes we take a step into the perspective of one of those characters, a secondary or even tertiary character that offers a new insight of the entire work. And today, I'd like to talk about it. Now, I'm not saying this is anything new in fiction, nor am I saying anything is reinventing the wheel by telling an episodic side story. But that said, I just wanted to share a few of my favorite recent instances of shows drastically pivoting to a side character's point of view, and why I just think it works so well. My name's Dom, and this is when anime makes a random guy the main character. Part 1. Frieren. One of Frieren Beyond Journey's End's biggest strengths is that it has this amazing propensity to make us care about characters with relatively little screen time. Think about characters like Denkin, Ubel, Zain, the hero of the South, and so many more, and how in just a few episodes, with just a few moments of characterization, they become lasting, memorable standouts of Frieren's world, reinforcing all the themes and underlining the stories Frieren is trying to tell. I wouldn't be the first person to point this out. Paytalks Anime has so many great character explorations about Frieren's secondary characters, and I'm sure there's countless other channels that have also studied these characters to death, so no doubt I'm a little late to the party. But I'd be remiss to not talk about what might not just be my favorite episode of the second season, but of the entire show so far. And that is episode 8, A Magnificent End. Genau was a character that I literally didn't even recognize at the beginning of episode 6. I literally thought this was a brand new guy just dropped, some standard issue Demon Hunter NPC. Never once did I consider that the tea-drinking proctor from the first exam, the definition of a background character we were never supposed to care about, would not only return, but become one of my favorite characters in all of Frieren. But to really understand why, first we have to take a look at demons. Demons are one of my favorite aspects of Frieren's world building. More monster than person, they attempt to disguise in with human society, using their words strictly to manipulate their prey and to ensure survival. One of the most chilling scenes in the entire show is a demon girl letting down her disguise and admitting she only cried for a mother in the first place because she knows it's a word that stops the humans from killing her. It's some real low-key dark shit, biblically accurate demons that only speak to lie, to lure, and to corrupt, purely out of a predator instinct, but never truly understanding the emotions of humans any more than we could ever understand the feelings of an ant crushed beneath our foot. All of Frieren's demon episodes just hit a little bit different. We're thrust back into the main A-plot of the show, and the threat is immediate. It's present. We're not just doing Yashike-style vibes around the world anymore. We're witnessing the main cast fighting for their lives against monsters that can't be reasoned with. And with that as our context, enter Genau. In his first few minutes of Season 2 screen time, Genau is a paradox. Genau is introduced remorselessly slaying a demon that's pleading for its life, admonishing it for telling predictable demon lies, the same old half-truths he's heard countless times before. But upon finding a human survivor, a childhood acquaintance, Genau does something maybe unexpected from a cold-blooded demon slayer. He lies. He reassures the dying man that everything's going to be okay, that he's killed all of the demons, that everyone in the village survived. He tells him that a powerful healer has saved them all, and they're waiting for him just at the church, even though the grim reality is that Genau knows his old friend was dead from the moment he found him, just like everyone else. This immediate contradiction to Genau's character is just so dense in Frieren's narrative, a man calling out demon lies for what they are, predictable, obvious, not even half-truths, and yet telling such similarly hollow lies himself when he needs them. It's a really layered moral question to ask. We've seen the demons of Frieren lie to save themselves time and time again, but we've never really confronted humans lying about the same things. And that's what the Revolta arc is all about. Frieren, Fern, and Stark are recruited to aiding the northern lands, and so they rendezvous with Genau and Methoda to survey the place, and the team branches off into Frieren, Fern, and Methoda as the offensive team, and then Genau and Stark holding down the town. Genau is a man racked by survivor's guilt, not only for the destruction of his hometown, but for the death of his partner, and he offers to defend the town by himself. And it seems like he's going to until Stark offers to stay along with him. And the two become unlikely fast friends, having some pretty in-depth conversations about their homelands and what it means to be a good or bad person. The moral conflict to Genau is he believes he's a bad person, the complete opposite of his partner, a bright, charismatic young man who was effortlessly outgoing and kind, good-hearted. He died foolishly, protecting a child, something Genau would never be stupid or kind enough to do. Genau asks Stark if he thinks he's a good person, but Stark kind of flips the script on Genau, saying that he actually does seem like a good person. After all, a bad person wouldn't have stayed to protect the village. And with the context of Stark's backstory, how he ran from his hometown, how we know he viewed his brother, it's a really beautiful, tender, understated conversation, something Frieren as a series just executes so well. And it's not hard to see why Genau is a little bit disarmed by Stark, seeing so much of his old partner, this good person, in his new comrade, whether he realizes it or not. But the peace is only temporary, because the demons are here. Genau and Stark versus Revolta is one of the best fights of the series, but it's the emotional core that's what elevates it from being a great fight to one of my favorite fights. It takes everything we know about demons, everything we know about Genau, and pits them together, a genuine clash of ideals and worldviews. It's no coincidence that Genau's black wings make him almost appear angelic, that all of this iconography of angels versus demons, truth versus lies, our concept of good and bad people. In classic anime fashion, it's all about just letting these characters duke it out and figure it out for themselves. But the wild card here, as it has been from the moment he volunteered to stay, is Stark. Stark's blossoming emotional maturity is one of my favorite things about the second season of Frieren. Right from the beginning, he almost unconsciously senses this inner war happening inside Genau, and like the ball of sunshine boy he is, he's ready to fight, not only Revolta, but whatever turmoil we can't see as well. The conflict hinges on Genau's survivor's guilt, this internal belief that he's not a good person, that dying for someone is illogical, and all of that comes to a head in this moment, where a young girl, a survivor, calls out for help, and without even thinking, Genau saves her from Revolta's attack. And then, the girl was just another demon, masquerading as a human, both demons knowing full well that humans fall for the bait every time. Genau slays the demon girl, but the damage is done. And all he can think about is his partner, the only person he knew foolish enough to sacrifice his life for a child he'd never even met. He thinks back to Serie saying that kind mages never live long. She calls Genau unpleasant, lacking a shred of kindness, and to stay that way forever. But we know Serie is less heartless than she appears, that her past pupils weigh on her more heavily than she would ever admit. Out of character. Why did he act out of character? With Genau mortally wounded and his mind trapped in the past, the demon goes in for the kill, only to meet Stark's axe. And in the best shit I've ever seen in my life, Stark blocks the direct hit. But Genau realizes in this moment that him and Stark are the same, just two fools acting out of character, willing to risk their lives to protect those who need protecting. Good person, bad person, out of character, in character, does any of it really matter? The end of the battle comes suddenly, with Revolta being disarmed in incredible fashion, only for him to impale Stark and Genau both, taking the two of them with him. But it's the tenacity and the indomitable human spirit that wins out, as Stark and Genau both hit one last attack before collapsing. And as Genau's eyes begin to fade, he remembers his partner, that dumb kid who died saving someone's life. But this time, we get another perspective, that Genau had always tried to save him, that his partner's last words were calling him a good guy after all, even when no one else believed that about him. And fucking hell, man, this might be my favorite singular scene in Frieren. Genau crawling over to Stark, bleeding out himself, desperate to save that kid that reminded him so much of his old friend, acting out of character. Part 2. Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3 is a story about guilt. Season 2 ended apocalyptically for a shonen, and Season 3 opens up in the direct aftermath. No time skip, no breathers, just the horrific fallout. A modern Shakespeare scene as Yuji mirrors Lady Macbeth, unable to wash away all the blood on his hands. In my other Jujutsu Kaisen videos, I've praised the direction and the storyboarding and how intensely JJK has been leaning into cinematography. And then, every single episode since those videos upped an already impossibly high standard, with the season finale being the highest rated episode of television this year on IMDb. But today I want to rewind a little bit and talk about an episode that was one of my personal favorites in a hugely stacked season. An episode that slowed things down to a crawl and told a story that honestly felt like watching a completely different anime. Jujutsu Kaisen dropped another all-timer episode with the introduction of the mysterious Higuruma, a character who up until now we only know as one of the current score leaders in the culling games. Since they easily have enough points to make another rule, Yuji and Fushiguro have split off to try and find him. The problem is, they have no idea who this mystery person could even be, just that with so many points to his name, one thing is clear: he's a cold-blooded murderer. And with that piece of intrigue as our setup, episode 8 starts with 11 minutes and 18 seconds of pure cinema. For a series mostly known for hype moments and aura, a lot of JJK Season 3 has almost been the antithesis of that, with quiet, intense scenes, the masterclasses in animation not only coming from fights, but also from the absolutely stellar cinematography, composition, animation, and character acting. And just in this flashback alone, the star of the show isn't just these characters, but rather this beautifully directed slice of Higuruma's life. The director and storyboards for this episode were done by Yosuke Takada, with key animation and director credits on JJK, Chainsaw Man, Yuri on Ice, the first Evangelion rebuild film. And even though I was quick to chalk a lot of JJK's recent visual flair to Gosso's direction, I can pretty safely eat my words on that because this episode is visually fantastic. Art style isn't just about how characters look. Sometimes it's about the mise-en-scène, the backgrounds, the way the cityscape is realistically brimming with life. Things like a fan spinning continuously in a shot, the camera being pointed directly at street mirrors, showing us this second-hand view from the perspective of the setting itself. Things like absurdly good walk cycles, like why are these so good? This is a weekly anime. These drab, mundane office and courtrooms are lit up by Higuruma and his assistant Shimizu, the meaning of their names being sunflower and clear water respectively, hinting at how vital Shimizu is to Higuruma and Higuruma to Shimizu, two characters trying to bring beauty and life into their bleak day-to-day office jobs. Everyone needs a work best friend, am I right? In Japan, 99.9% of criminal trials end in a guilty verdict. This is the title card and the contextual framing right before a flashback tells the story of Higuruma, a defense lawyer who takes on impossible cases. And right away we kind of understand all we need to know about this guy. He's a moral, just person. He stands up for the weak even when it's against his best interest. And he just generally seems like a pretty level-headed, personable guy. Seems to mirror another character introduction I can think of in this show. JJK has this really interesting way of framing villains as those pushed to the brink by an unfair society. Something all it takes is one bad day or whatever it was Joker said. And almost in verse of the slow descent of Yuji Itadori realizing that he might just be another cog in the sorcery machine, we have the fast and sudden snaps of villains like Geto when faced with injustices they just can't seem to reconcile with. The tone is unlike anything we've seen in JJK up until this point. If Perfect Preparation was a Tarantino film put to animation, this is a David Fincher film, a gritty crime drama showcasing the declining psyche of our main character and just how doomed someone is trying to do the right thing in a wholly indifferent world. Shimizu asks Higuruma how he's holding on mentally, and though he seems fine, grounded, unaffected, all it takes is one little push. Remember, 99.9% of cases, Higuruma's fighting an unwinnable battle with the Japanese justice system. The episode opens on him taking a particularly difficult case, but Higuruma has faith that his defendant is innocent. There's enough evidence, there's an unshakable alibi, there's no motive. But that's not what matters to the judges, the jury, or the people. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, the public has already made up their mind, not looking for someone who's truly guilty, but looking for someone to blame. Higuruma's defendant is found guilty, and with his life and freedom in Higuruma's hands, he looks at him like this. All it takes is one little push. With his core belief that he could help the innocent completely broken, Higuruma's cursed energy manifests and he slaughters the entire room. When Yuji meets Higuruma, he finds the lawyer in an old theater. Unable to agree, Yuji and Higuruma fight. I mean, it's still a battle shonen after all, come on now. Higuruma's cursed energy reveals to manifest as a judge. Like I mentioned earlier, at this point in the story, with Yuji feeling such a weight of guilt on his shoulders, judgment is almost the perfect thematic foil for him. The natural opposite to the driving emotion of Yuji at this point in the story. A lot of the time, shonen storytelling gets dismissed for being simplistic, but I don't think simple should ever be mistaken for bad. I think that pitting two ideologies against each other and having each representative of said idea just fight it out can sometimes be more effective storytelling than anything else. But as Yuji's guilt and innocence are put directly into question, Yuji does something Higuruma never could have expected. In a life or death situation where Yuji could easily be defeated with the wrong admission, where Higuruma knows the legal fine print to exonerate Yuji entirely, Yuji pleads guilty.
Yeah, I killed all of them. I'm not going to deny it.
No hesitation, no jokes, no excuses. Yuji immediately confesses and pleads guilty to a crime he didn't do, but feels like he did. And this shakes Higuruma. It's not someone trying to lie to plead innocent to save themselves. It's not someone trying to take advantage of the system or a desperate act of self-preservation. This kid, he just genuinely thinks he's guilty for something a cursed spirit inside him did. And in that moment, Higuruma realizes he's become the judge, jury, and executioner that he hated, desperate to win off a technicality just to condemn a perpetrator, any perpetrator, 99.9% of perpetrators, sentencing someone just for the sake of it. And then we get another flashback of Higuruma admitting that he doesn't want to be a judge. He never wanted to be a judge. He just wanted to help people. And right at the climax of this fight, Higuruma gives up, realizing that there's still innocent people out there that need his help. Part 3. Delicious in Dungeon. Okay, these have gotten pretty heavy. Let's dial back from emotional storytelling and talk about a series with absolutely zero trauma or tone shifts or weirdness, okay? Bet. Delicious in Dungeon's unpredictability is one of its biggest strengths, and nothing could highlight this more than when we pivot away from the main cast to focus on what's happening above the dungeon, or to reveal the current state of other adventuring parties on their own campaign running parallel to the Toten party's own. And none better for the theme of a random dude becoming an episodic main character than Kabru. Kabru's party is introduced in episode 5, where they happen upon a treasure and, well, instantly die from the entire gimmick of treasure insects. And this wouldn't be the first time either. It actually seems like they can't catch a break in this dungeon. Kabru's party is the complete opposite of Laos's, almost hilariously so. And it's used both as a gag and as a reinforcement that Laios, Marcil, Chilchuck, and Senshi are just somehow perfectly suited to blundering their way through this dungeon. Kabru's party, despite being technically more competent adventurers on paper, infinitely more personable in out-of-combat scenarios, and more gifted in nearly every single way it can outwardly appear to be gifted, have just met their type weakness bad matchup in a dungeon filled with monsters and natural hazards and weird magic that they don't understand. In one of my first videos, I talked about how Kabru is written as this perfect foil to Laios, where Laios' specialty is monsters, Kabru's people. And it's almost scary how good Kabru is at people. In combat with thieves, he defeats them easily, eerily predicting their every move like he's the fucking Sharingan. And when all the parties meet up in the halfway point of the series, he comes across as an ideal party leader, someone with an 18 charisma and proficiency in every yap skill on the sheet. He's so good at people reading that his intentions of being a diabolical little schemer playing Game of Thrones while everyone is busy playing Cooking Mama are unbeknownst to everyone. Kabru, compared to Laios, as many commenters have said across my videos, is like someone trying to play chess with a dog and losing, almost literally. Because as good as Kabru is with people, he's only good in ways that he's prepared for. He's like the fantasy equivalent of that guy who reads How to Win Friends and Influence People and can't hold a conversation outside of those topics. For the normal, usual conversations where he can appear pleasant and charming and knowledgeable, he will do that. But when anything truly falls outside of that social dynamics flowchart, he doesn't know how to handle it, which is just so funny and almost kind of tragic that he's just confronted with little freaks like Laios throughout this story. Kabru naturally intuits everything about the Toten party even before we as viewers know it. Some of the biggest character reveals about the main characters of the story aren't directly stated by those characters, or even explored in the A-plot at all. They're instead discussed like hot gossip across Kabru's party, who we can assume has a similar working knowledge to the rest of the island's parties as well. And this makes Kabru-helmed episodes so interesting. In the latter half of the show, Kabru becomes one of the main vehicles of Ryoko Kui's above dungeon world building. It's through Kabru's point of view that we get the introduction of the Western Elves and learn about just whatever the hell happens to these dungeons that seem to be getting too hungry and the horrific ramifications it has above ground. Something that Kabru knows all too well. And oh my god, a third Survivor's Guild character has hit the video essay. You see, Kabru's hometown was wiped out by a dungeon in a similar state to this one. It's hinted at a few different times before being confirmed in the conversation with the Western Elves. And Kabru was a survivor, yes, but he was also taken in and raised by the elves afterwards. In my last video I said that Laios isn't the Aragorn or Jon Snow of Dungeon Meshi. And that's because it's Kabru, and the entire point of Dungeon Meshi's story, at least from the first season, is just reinforcing how little that ideal fantasy hero matters here. What sets Kabru apart from a Genau or a Higuruma is that his moment isn't a fight or an action scene at all. It isn't a driving emotion of guilt, at least not directly. The Kabru episodes are an implication that the world of this series is so much bigger than we know, and that every party in the world of Dungeon Meshi is led by a random guy who thinks they're the main character of the story. I'm really excited to see what Kabru gets up to in Season 2 of Delicious in Dungeon, and hell, I can't wait to see what Genau and Higuruma get up to in their respective stories either, assuming they're just actually not gone now. We've talked about these characters getting their time to shine, their underlying themes, what makes them work, but I'd like to know what's your favorite instance of a side story, and why it resonated with you. Was it one of these three, or maybe something different? Anyway, that has been all for today. Thank you so much for checking out the video. A big thank you to all of my patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members. It's because of you guys that I can keep doing these videos, and I appreciate all of you, especially my biggest supporters, like Lala Subs and Leslie Main. Thank you guys so much. I've been Dom. This has been Random Guys. And until next time.